Good morning, people. Good morning, people.
Good morning.
Oh, so much better. There aren't many of us in the dead of summer, in the dog days. So those of us that are here, you need to be a little more robust. So let's practice it again. Hey, good morning. Well, welcome those of you who are tuning in online. Welcome those that are here in the space. We are Common Thread, and we are very glad that you're here. Here's something that you might have noticed, and that is that our society runs on a rhythm that is punctuated by the rhythm that schools run on. And like you, I spent a lot of my formative years, I formed longer than most, in schools, and so this rhythm is pretty entrenched in me. So for me, September feels more like the start of something even than January does. And September is almost here. It's right around the corner. So even before September gets here, you're going to hear in a moment that our Newcomer Pizza is starting early because there's several events that happen through the newcomers through the fall. So we start this Sunday. There'll be other things that'll come up. Then the Wednesday after Labor Day, we're going to start again weekday morning meditation at 6:30 on Zoom. Then on September 10th, we kind of launch the year with Club Day, and you'll get to hear about all the events and all the groups that are coming up this fall. Right after that, the Saturday after Club Day is when our Enneagram seminar happens. So you can see there's a bunch of stuff happening. All the while that stuff's happening, we're also consolidating and strengthening our children's groups and our teen groups, and that is very much going well, by the way. I hope to give you an update about that in a few weeks. So here's the thing to keep in mind this fall. Every group that you're going to hear about, every event that you're going to hear about is related in some way to this image. It's a list of 4 categories of spiritual practice we call working the circle. These are practices that have for centuries of human exploration proven to be practices that if we will do them will change us, will awaken us, will enlighten us. So you may hear in today's lessons that these practices are how we experience this central component in our narrative, our religion's narrative, the issue of salvation. They happen as we are being awakened to, enlightened to, made aware of the inner light. So you'll notice that it's about to start happening. Here's another thing you're going to notice as we go forward. It's going to be a lot of stuff. You're going to hear a whole bunch of things that you could be part of. So many things, you can't possibly be part of all of them. So every fall, all of us are invited to take a personal inventory and ask ourselves the question, when I assess the condition of my life right now, which of these seems the thing I need most? Which of these things does my soul need right now? Where is the growing edge of my interior growth? Where is it happening right now? In other words, what nutrient does my inner world need right now? Does it need communal nutrients, the deepening of my network of spiritual friendships? Does it need contemplative, being part of a group that practices the quietness of our souls, or the serving, or the learning, being part of Braver Angels, or being part of a book club? What we've developed inside of each one of these 4 categories, a lot of stuff, a lot of ways to engage. So again, too many to do in one fall. So here's the question to be asking in the next few weeks. What does my soul need? What do I need for my growing edge? Because we're getting really close to go. So welcome to Common Thread. If you're a newcomer, we'd like to greet you in as unswarmy a way as we know. And so we will let you take the initiative. If you will go to that QR code or go to our website /Newcomer, you'll get a form. If you'll give us your email address, we'll send you an email. Let's say, here, 5 things to read about the church, about the community, But also, there's a last one, and if you want to, when you're ready, you can click that, and we will introduce you to some real live human beings. Also, we put this up every week. There we go. How is your soul? How are you doing? Because one of the things that Healthy Community does is stand with one another on our rough days. 3 ways you can participate in that. You can use the QR code. You can go to our website /soul, or in the back there will be someone with a name tag who will introduce you to someone or talk with you, because one of the things we've learned along the way is that we need listeners. One of the ways that we understand ourselves most is when we can articulate it. But we don't do that as a culture, so we're trying to break the habit of a culture. Those are the things that are happening. All right. Let's do this together. Say it with me. If you are here, you belong.
If you are here, you belong.
Very good. I'm having a little problem with my hand coordination. And let's say, as we do each week, we are, every one of us, carriers of the inner light.
We are, every one of us, carriers of the inner light.
And we are, every one of us, carriers of divine breath.
We are, every one of us, carriers of divine breath.
Well done. Well done. All right. In a couple weeks, we are going to do another of our Work of the People for the People Sundays. The formal word for that is liturgy, but what it means is work of the people for the people. We're going to do one of those, and we're going to celebrate the concept that we are, every one of us, more one than we are two. And in particular, we're going to celebrate that around the idea that we've got some children and we love them, and they are going to be making a huge leap forward, 3 of them, from childhood into adolescence, marked by moving into middle school. And so we're going to talk together about being one, not just with our adults, but being one with our children and being one on this journey that goes through adolescence and goes into adulthood. So we're going to be doing that a couple weeks. I don't remember exactly when it is, but it's coming up. But in order to do that, we've got to learn some songs. One in particular that will be our theme song that day. And Joe's going to come up today. We're going to do music school. Get ready. Let's sing our hearts out. Are you ready? Here we go.
All right, great to see everybody. We're going to start with a song we all know, Love, Love, Love. And looking up here, I see some veteran musicians, which I think we're...
Wait a minute. We got to do the shakers.
Oh, that is true. That is true. I meant to have my lovely wife pass them out, but we'll settle for Doug. I'll continue, yes. All right, so drums. Psst, psst, psst. Here's your pattern. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Do that with me, 3 and 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Living the dream, 3 and 4. 1 and 2, 3. You got it, man. Someone set up a microphone, 3 and 4. We need a recording session. Excellent. All right, boys, you've done this. You know, what note did we play on, what was it, 14? 7. Not 7. On 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, so close. 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2. Yep, you got it. Wonderful. All right, so let's get our instruments going, and then the xylophones, and then the voices. All right, here we go. Let's start with the drums. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 5, 6, 7. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 5 and 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Xylophones. Here we go. Love your neighbor. to overflowing joy, joy, joy. Peace, 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 peace. The message in our word is peace. Peace that passes understanding. Peace, peace, peace. Love, 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 love. The message in our word is love. Love your neighbor as your brother. Love, love, love. Two more times. Love, love, love. Last time. Love, love, love. Wait for it. Fantastic. All right, we have a brand new song to learn today. It's called God Teach Us to Be One. This is, the verses of it are similar to other songs we've done in that it is in call and response form. So I will sing the call. You can see my part is sort of in a gray type. And then the congregation, all of you, are going to sing God Teach Us to Be One. And on the verses, you get a new instrument on this. Although actually, well, yes, we'll do that. So I'm going to get you all in just a second, I promise. Don't let me start without teaching you your new part. So on the verses, you all sing the same thing again and again. And it just goes like this. So I'm going to sing a line, and you'll sing this back to me. God teach us to be one. And Melissa is here. She's going to sing your part. I'll sing the call. Melissa's going to sing the response with you. How great is that? God teach us to be one. Let's sing that together. 1, 2, ready, go. God teach us to be one. Do that again. Ready, go. God teach us to be one. From the mountains to the shore. God teach us to be one. With the homeless and the poor. God teach us to be one. You got it. Can I go forward 2 slides? So that's the verses, and that's what you'll sing on every verse. And then we get to the refrain. So I'll sing, and we sing this part all together, but right now I'm going to teach it to you, call and response. So whatever I sing to you, you sing back to me. God teach us to be one. 1, 2, ready, sing. God teach us to be one. Good. God teach us to be one. Ready, go. God teach us to be one. Sorry. That's what it is. God teach us to be one. Do that with me. Ready, go. God teach us to be one. So the first 2 lines. God teach us to be one. God teach us to be one. Your turn. Ready, sing. God teach us to be one. God teach us to be one. Good. And then the third line. May unity shine like the sun. May unity shine like the sun. Do that again. May unity shine like the sun. Good. And the last line. Through everyone. Through everyone. So here's how the whole thing sounds. God teach us to be one. God teach us to be one. May unity shine like the sun. 1, 2, 3, through everyone. Let's try that together. God, 1, 2, together let's sing. God teach us to be one. God teach us to be one. May unity shine like the sun. 1, 2, 3, through everyone. You got it. Perfect. And that's the song. Let's go back to the top. And, oh, yes, okay. Needs more cowbell. Excuse me, pardon me. Hello. Yep, right up here. Can you follow me? 1, 2, here we go.
You guys are rocking it right now.
Now that's the kind of cowbell we need. Excellent. Okay. Now, you guys have shakers? Shaker people? You all wondered how the Shakers got their name? Here we go, right here. That's not true. But it is funny. All right, and my xylophones have been laboring this morning on their part, so we should be good to go. Yeah, okay, we'll save that for another day. All right, I like it. Okay. We are ready. Xylophones, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep going. One more. Here we go. From the mountains to the shore,
God, teach us to be one.
with the homeless and the poor.
God, teach us to be one.
When our sense of hope is strong,
God, teach us to be one.
strength is almost gone.
God, teach us to be one. God, teach us to be one. God, teach us to be one.
May unity shine like the sun. 1, 2, 3,
through everyone.
When we cry to you in prayer,
God, teach us to be
when
one.
we don't believe you're there,
God, teach us to be one.
when we feel your gentle hand,
God, teach us to be one.
when we just don't understand.
God, teach us to be one.
God, teach us to be one. God, teach us to be one. May unity shine like the sun. 2, 3,
Through everyone.
When we're walking in the light,
God, teach us to be one.
when our hearts are black as night,
God, teach us to be one.
when we get what we desire,
God, teach us to be one.
when we're going through the fire.
God, teach us to be one.
God, teach us to be one. God, teach us to be one. May unity shine like the sun through everyone. Last time. Nice. Excellent.
Man, that was complex, people. That was complex.
I don't know, is that observation or confession? Just kidding, kidding. All right, we're going to sing Kyrie eleison together. All right, this is a song we've sung a bunch. Again, call and response. Whatever I sing, you'll echo back. On the middle section that goes to Christe eleison, we all sing it together. If you know it, please join in. Christ eleison, Christ eleison, Christ eleison, Christ eleison, Kyrie eleison,
Kyrie eleison,
Kyrie eleison,
Kyrie eleison,
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie, Kyrie, Kyrie eleison. Beautiful. Thank you for singing today.
If you would turn to someone nearby you, pass the peace, greet one another, say good morning. Children, you can line up and get ready to go. Excuse me. Those of you watching online, you get to see the man's scramble of transition, which is why we have everyone greeting, so that we can figure out where everything goes next. Okay, as you're being seated, we've got a few announcements to make. As you're being seated, a few announcements to make. This is not good. As you're being seated, a few announcements to make. Anybody happen to have a AAA battery sitting in their pocket? You know where my office is, right? In the refrigerator, there's some AAAs. Could you go get one? So, before we start with the meditation, some ways that you can connect in the community. Today, those of you online, we're having What Are You Thinking on Zoom. Afterwards, there's going to be two things going on in here. Angie is going to be sitting right here on this table, responding to, answering any questions, anything you'd like to know about the bylaws that we're going to be ratifying in September. She's going to be there. Given that there's also going to be a newcomers lunch going on in this room, you all might just move down the hall and find a room down the way for that. That's coming up. Today, after we finish, we're going to have our kickoff for our newcomers kind of group that runs through the fall. Today's going to be the first one. It's going to be the newcomer pizza. So we would encourage you to come if you are a newcomer. We would encourage you to come if you've never been to a newcomer's pizza before. We would encourage you to come if you're an old timer and you'd like to get to know some newcomers. So, given that broad welcome, now we need to count and see how many people we're gonna buy pizza for. So, counting your children that will be here, we'll want to make sure they get some pizza as well. If you would please put up a finger of how many people you would like, how many slices of pizza you and your folks would like Thank you very much, right there, yeah. So you ready? Here we go with, she's counting. Keep them up. Keep them up. Tell me when you're done, Kate.
Got it, thanks.
All right, very good. You can also see up there on the 20th, we're going to have our drop-in ideogram group, and then volunteer at the men's shelter after that, bunco night coming up. All of the details you get for all of those things. You know what? You got to turn the thing on. I didn't know that part. I had it turned off. All right. Talk among yourselves, would you? Yeah, we didn't need that battery, Cameron.
I saved it just in
All
case.
right. Okay, so as always, you can find out all the stuff because I just buzzed through all that stuff. If you go to our app, you'll find it there. If you can go to the website, you'll find it on the front page there. Or you could just open up the Thursday email. You will also find it there. So the pop-up picnic in 2 to 3 weeks, something like that, 27th. Today, at this Newcomer pizza that we're talking about, if you come, you're going to get to learn about the community. But also, if you come, you're going to get to know some people who are also learning about the community, so that in a couple of weeks when this happens, when this bring your own stuff picnic happens, you're going to be able to just walk right in, having brought some food, sit down, get to know some folks, hang out and chat, and you're going to get to feel comfortable doing it because you will know someone because you just went to the Newcomer's Pizza just a few weeks before. So you remember middle school when you walked into the lunchroom and you didn't know who you were going to sit with? You will not have to deal with that 2 weeks hence if you come to the Newcomer Pizza today. And the Newcomer Pizza today will be very easy, very accessible. So, look, have we laid this thing out for you or what? We have made this thing easy. So, none of that uncomfortableness will happen on the 27th. And so, old comers, newcomers, everybody come today, and then same thing a few weeks from now. One Wake's Research Action Teams. Terrible acronym. Research action teams have been working this summer strategizing things that we can do to mitigate pain, mitigate harm, bring about change in very real lives, in very real ways in Wake County. Around 3 core issues that we have voted on, that we've done 3,000 conversations with people in Wake County, asking people what are the pain points that they live with. 3 points: affordable housing, public transportation, homelessness, and the mental health issue that's related with homelessness. So what's going to happen is that the research action teams that have been perusing or exploring how we might make change, they'll come and give a preliminary report at this meeting, but also we'll invite you to participate in any one of those. Now we're moving from the research stage to the planning the action team. So what would we do about homelessness given these limits, given these parameters that we've got? So all that's going to happen on the 31st. If you've not been a part of Wake County, here's kind of how it works for Common Thread. We are part of a larger community of congregations, 50 or so of them, all of whom do what we do. And we've got our own team, which is to help keep us updated. And then we've got this larger team that we're part of where we can actually leverage all of our work together to bring about change in our county. So what typically happens is One Wake asks all of our member organizations to show up once in a while, to show up with numbers and make a big impact, oftentimes at a city council meeting or oftentimes in some place where a large number of people can make a big impression. So that will often happen. But behind the scenes, to be ready for that, there's a lot of places that you could get involved in making a difference in Wake County. So if you would like to do that, this is the time to be doing it, because I am working on reforming our community's One Wake team. And if you would like to be part of that, it basically involves finding out what's going on, having conversations with people in the community so they know what's going on, and then making sure that we all show up together to the things that matter. So if you would like to do that, in a moment I'll tell you exactly how. So It would be great if you've never been exposed to come on the 31st, see what it looks like. If you can't get there in person, there's a certain energy in person that doesn't exist when you do it online, but you can also watch the live stream on YouTube. So that's all going on the 31st. Now, the next thing is, how would you let me know you wanted to be part of that? Well, you would go to Housekeeping, and right there you will find a box that you can click. So you can QR scan it, or you can go to our app at the very front page, or you can go to our website /clipboard, and you will be able to say, yes, I'm interested. You'll also see when you get there, we're looking for someone who's really good doing events for teenagers, and also there's another thing, I can't remember what it is. So, oh, I remember the other one. If you'd like to help plan an outdoors event, we got 2 folks willing to plan them. That'll get us through the fall. But if you'd like to plan a hike or a bike ride or a swim day or something like that, just go ahead and click that box. Daniel, think ultimate frisbee, I mean, that kind of stuff. That'd be fun.
Hey, Doug.
Yeah. Okay, hit.
Right. Hey, everybody. I'm Angie. I'm staying today after to help with the bylaws discussion. Josh needs a ride home. It involves you letting Josh pull your elbow out to your car and then putting Josh in your car and taking him 9 minutes away to his house. And here's the full directions. Is there anyone able to do that today? Yes.
Right over here.
Yeah, Cherie was the fastest with her hands, so I'm going to give her.
Cherie's on.
Josh will tell you his address, and thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Oh, I forgot. We're moving the offering up to this spot. Change. I don't even know what we do because this isn't where we do it. What do I say? Help me out. What do I say?
When you invest your common thread, you get back.
Yeah. That's what we say. But I mean, how do I start? What's the first word? Once I get the first word going, I just run like a train. Anyway, here's the basic idea. The basic idea is we all make this happen. And we do it with giving our time, and we give our energy, and we give our love to one another, and we give our dollars. And we all do that online. It's on the website. It's at the top of the website. There's a donate button. And so this is the part that I say every week. When we give those resources, when we give our time and energy and our love and our dollars, here's what happens. The community takes that stuff, those resources, and amplifies them, because there's things that we could do together that we can't do alone. We amplify those resources and we return them to one another, creating an environment in which human beings thrive and flourish and grow. So we all do that online. Please contribute on the website. Okay. Find a comfortable place there in your body. Take a breath, give yourself a moment to relax. So our contemplative focus this month, one of our 4 core contemplative practices, we rotate through them as the year goes along. And this month, we're focusing on the welcome prayer. The welcome prayer is a partner practice to centering prayer or mindfulness meditation. It's a practice that we use during the week, during the day, not in the morning sitting in our meditation chair or sitting on a cushion. We use it as we're driving or as we're at work or when we're dealing with our children. It's a practice we use whenever we notice ourselves. That's a really important part, to notice ourselves being hijacked by some surging form of energy. Oftentimes it's a negative energy, an afflictive emotion energy, we will call it. But sometimes it could be a people-pleasing energy, or it can be a get stuff done energy, or it can be a running at an unsustainable pace energy. When we notice some kind of afflictive emotion or surging energy response, it's usually a pretty good indicator that we have tapped into the ego as self part of us, and we have left wanting the inner light, inner divine part of us. So our bodies signal to us, this is one of those moments, I've probably been hijacked by one of those coping strategies, and we see it. And we see it because we've been practicing in the morning on our cushions, but we also notice it, and we say, this is a good time, the welcome prayer. So we invite our inner light selves welcome. We let go of our ego selves. So here's the prayer. Let me read it to you. It is welcome, welcome, welcome. I let go of my compulsive need for power and control. I let go of my compulsive need for safety or security, and I let go of my compulsive need for affirmation or esteem, and I let go of my compulsive need to change the situation. And we let go of the compulsive need to change the situation because that's usually an indicator that we're trying to get the world to line up with one of our compulsive needs for these three energy centers. And those three energy centers, power and control, affirmation, esteem, safety, and security, are usually behind most of the ego reactions that we fall into. So it's a prayer of remembering to let go and to welcome the interior light self. Now, if you can't remember all those words, don't worry a bit, because in its simplest form, it's really just a one-word prayer. Welcome and breathe. You notice, welcome and breathe. You notice some kind of a surging thing, welcome and breathe. You can add to that, make it a 4-word prayer and say, welcome, I let go. Welcome, I let go. These lines in the prayer, they're just nuance. You don't have to remember all those. Welcome, and I let go. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to practice together, even though it's the kind of thing that we practice in our daily lives. We're going to do it together kind of intentionally. But in order to do that, I'm going to encourage you, take a moment, take a few breaths, and allow to come to mind some moment of surging energy. Maybe a deal that didn't close, surging energy, or a deadline that passed without being completed, or an account that didn't reconcile. You know the thing, your kids act out and do it again for the umpteenth time. There's another fight at home, there's a coworker, there's a boss. Some kind of surging energy moment, let one of those come to mind. Take a few moments and allow that moment to come to mind. And once you have that, keep in mind this is a practice for that moment. This is a practice for that moment. We welcome and let go. We change our breathing pattern to breathe in, welcome, let go. So picturing that moment last week or last month, when you experience some kind of that surging energy, let's practice together. Again, keeping in mind that circumstance, I'll read the line and you repeat in your mind as we welcome, as we let go. Breathe in, welcome. Breathe, welcome. Breathe, welcome. I let go of my compulsive need for power or control. Breathe, welcome. I let go of my compulsive need for safety or security. Breathe, welcome. I let go of my compulsive need for affirmation or esteem. Welcome. And I let go of my compulsive need to change things. Take a few moments breathing, and as you exhale, welcome. Breathe and welcome. And so, indwelling divine, may we be alert to those moments when our ego selves start running. And may we be able to step back, let go, and invite our inner light selves. That's our prayer together. Amen. I hope you make it part of your practice. I've made it part of mine. All right, today we're going to finish up our lesson on rehabilitating our lesson. Rehabilitating our religion. It's been a summer-long lesson. Today, Heather is going to look at how our story of salvation, if redeemed, if rehabilitated, can help us find our way back to healthy religion. So, say, welcome, Heather.
Good morning. Salvation. Being saved. So, on the one hand, to me, salvation seems a strange, even convoluted thing. But on the other hand, so simple. So clear, so straightforward, even intuitive. Because of course, we all want to be saved. So when I was a kid, my family left California when I was in the middle of the 7th grade year. It was a very traumatic move. We had moved already several times at that point. I'd already lived in a few different states and a couple different countries. But this one was rough. It was middle school, and it was from California to Massachusetts. And so it was a rough year, and my parents did something that they wouldn't normally have done, and they spent the money to fly me back to California that summer in order to have a little bit of time with my girl group. But it was, 7th grade, so I was 12, so it was 1984. And during the year I was gone, all of my old friends had become born-again Christians. And that was not happening in the New England town that I lived in Massachusetts. In the New England town I lived in, the school would end and the buses would pull off and the Catholics would go to the Polish catechism and the French Catholics would go to the French one, and I would just go home because we moved too often to do church in our family. So I didn't know anything about this born-again Christianity thing, and I landed in the airplane and I had a few weeks to spend with my friends. And to make a long story short, they already had a weekend planned up in the mountains, so I was brought along, and it was a retreat of some sort for youth. And this is what I remember about, this is my introduction to salvation. This is what I remember about it. I had just been through this year, no friends, the cafeteria in the middle school, walking in. And here was my girl group, and I watched as one by one they did, I think, what's called an altar call. So there was music, and there was firelight, there was a lot of ambiance. People were invited to go down the center aisle and I had never heard this expression before, accept Jesus as their personal savior. And if they did that, there was a lot of emotion. People came up, people held them, people cried. It was very, very, very tempting to do it. And of course, there was quite a bit of pressure because I was a guest, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And so I stayed in the seat, and I watched everyone else go down the aisle, and I just couldn't do it as much as I wanted to. It just seemed that something was missing for me in that. From what I had understood up to that point in my life, the salvation had already been given, and I was unfamiliar with this concept of going up and receiving it in this public way. Fast forward several years later, so that's the convoluted side in my experience. Fast forward many years later, during the pandemic, everything I thought was holding my life together fell away. At first, I tried to prop it up with busyness. There were schedules and checklists on every wall in our house. And for me, a lifelong insomniac, the nights became the time and my bed the place. When and where the falling away was unavoidable. So, of course, I started to experience what our tradition calls the dark night of the soul. And it turns out the dark night of the soul is dark for a reason, because you're in bed when it comes for you. And I can remember thinking about that moment in California in the mountains when I wanted to be part of that thing, but the ideas didn't seem real to me. They didn't seem sincere to me, and I was afraid that if I did it, I would be doing it for the wrong reasons. And I was remembering that and that dark night of the soul, trying to find the trajectory of my life, the parts where it had fallen away and the parts where it was still present. And I can still remember standing in the kitchen of our old house in the middle of the pandemic, reflecting all of this, and it finally dawning on me that the song that they had been playing that night at that altar call, and it was a tricked up version of Jesus Loves Me. And I remember at the time being, that was a part of my rejection of it, because I thought, Jesus loves me. Just didn't seem like something I had any experience of. And in that night in the pandemic, I remembered that, and I finally understood this ridiculously silly little jingly kids song, and that what it meant, and it had meant then, was that I didn't have to redeem my life. I didn't have to do anything to redeem the life that I was freely given. And it occurred to me that it might not have been my taste, but that altar call, that song, all of that was offering me a kind of salvation, a salvation that was there for the taking. But I wasn't ready at that point. I couldn't wrap my head around all those ideas. So here I am doing the lesson on salvation. So first I asked Doug, why do we have to have a salvation story? And he told me why. All the best religions have a salvation story. Because everybody contains a salvation story, whether they're aware of it as such or not. In other words, stop asking why. That goes from my whole life. Because it's not just a Christian thing, it's a human thing, both at an individual level and at a human race level. So again, why? Why does every culture and religion carry a salvation story? Look around. If you're not old enough yet, having outgrown the child's innate awareness of needing to be protected, even saved from the monster in the closet, and you're now living squarely in the midst of what Richard Rohr calls the creating of the container, the years in which we find our identity and create our significance, or if you're lucky and you come from a calm, stable, secure family, always and already knowing what and feeling what safety and feels like, then just wait. You'll get there again. Because we walk on a knife's edge between our dual natures, between our physical mortality and our spiritual immortality, between the beauty and consolation of the natural world and the danger and threat of it. And it's sometimes unbearable. And sometimes, like a tightrope act, just smile and don't look down. And we need to be saved from it by believing wholeheartedly in a narrative that gives our experience both deep meaning, in which our spiritual journey, walking the knife's edge, becomes a heroic thing, and a tangible meaning, which gives us encouragement to believe that we can do it and tells us how to do it. However, most Christians nowadays have been taught a salvation narrative that explains, by binding inextricably together two central stories, events really, which together have become the centerpiece of our faith, the crucifixion and the resurrection, but actually can be encountered independently and must be, because one of them is literally and metaphorically soaked in blood, and the other has been stripped of all of its mystical meaning and left as a kind of leap of faith game of chicken. There's even a name for this salvation narrative, and it's not Easter, the penal substitution theory of the atonement. The penal substitution theory of the atonement. So whatever you think and feel about whatever did or didn't happen at Easter, the PSTA is far less ambiguous, simplistic even, than the resurrection story, but far more tragic than the crucifixion story in terms of its influence over the Christianity it's come to be equated with. The thing needs to be discarded alongside the theory of the traveling womb and eugenics, in my opinion. I think in all of our opinions. So I realized then, after having this conversation with Doug, that what I'd actually wanted to know when I'd approached him was not why do we have to have a salvation story at all, but why do we have to have a PSTA salvation narrative? I wasn't even raised in church, and even I assumed it was the only game in town. On the one hand, a resurrection story, very, very, very challenging, and on the other, what has become for most people a blood sacrifice story, just plain bad. I'd long ago rejected the latter, but consequently, I'd also dismissed the former. Between the violence of the Christian Judaic heritage, our heritage, and the literalism of the Christianity I grew up looking down on, salvation seemed like a bait and switch. To be saved, you had to buy into original sin. Hard pass. It seems like a cart leading a horse, the PSTA, a justification of an inflexible set of ideas about who, what, where, when God is, masquerading as a story to help us understand and accept how and why a terrible thing did and had to happen, the crucifixion. Sure, the theory does say that Jesus took the rap for us, but there's a loophole. To be saved, you have to sign on to the PSTA, and therefore the inflexible set of ideas. So terrible things continue to happen, at least to other people, non-believers, not us. It's those inflexible ideas that are most problematic about the PSTA. Omniscience, omnipotence, original sin, free will, punishment, atonement. Because the crucifixion itself isn't an idea. Something terrible did take place. Jesus gave his life in order to open up the Judaic revelation of one God, and consented to his own death in order to expand it to its full implications of one reality and of oneness nature. He did die on a cross, robbing the world, maybe, of decades of teaching and learning that might have saved us some centuries of the last 2,000 years of our collective struggle to grasp those insights. And if it could have been left at just that. Love does almost always involve self-sacrifice, and gratitude is a wisdom teaching. But the PSTA goes way beyond being a story about self-sacrifice. Blood sacrifice is icky. And the language of punishment and atonement are a deep part of our heritage. That's who we were at one point in our history, and often still are. And though it's tempting to just walk away from it all and become a Buddhist instead of a post-PSTA Christian, this dark history is also the story of how we struggled to reconcile ourselves to both the nature and the condition of our lives, and our ugly, beautiful struggle to understand them. But the PSTA salvation narrative doesn't trust us to struggle or reconcile. Is it that letting Jesus' death just be tragic threatened to destabilize everything? How could something like that have happened if it didn't have to happen? Maybe it's better to live in a mean universe than a meaningless universe. But when people ask questions like that, what they're actually talking about is purpose, not cause and effect. So they force themselves into a position of trying to wreak good out of bad. We're not, as human beings, as good at contemplating events in the other direction. If everything happens for a reason, but backwards, not forwards, we have no control. It's too much. Maybe what we really want is to be saved from the existential fear of having no control. We are tempted by the certainty of the PSTA, and to believe that all that salvation can offer is being spared what others are not spared. It's a less frightening way of thinking about our fragile lives, if more dangerous. In his book, Doug writes that he was saved from the excessive focus on me, my, mine that a busy family and career bring, and the use of that busyness to excuse his neglect of others in need, that in his busyness he'd become blind to this need and was saved from this blindness by stories of need and by stories of the unconditional love and acceptance shown to strangers by Jesus. Many years ago, my father's older brother committed suicide. I watched the family attempt to control the ambiguity and tragedy of my uncle's life story. He had become addicted to drugs and alcohol. He had tried to save himself by giving them up, but when he relapsed one more time, he'd given up. We all knew about his history because we'd seen it, but he'd also experienced abuse as a child, and no one wanted to know this, even though many in our family had seen it, even shared it. So it became unreal, even though it was true, and I think it was his unreal pain that broke him. When I tried to talk about this, I was silenced with angry accusations. Knowing this would have placed a burden on all of us. They'd all been raised in the same family. I was being raised in the second generation, and even as a kid in my mid-20s, I could see that it was only a matter of time. A PSTA story slowly emerged in my secularized Catholic family. My uncle had been the weakest of the siblings from birth, too sensitive, too creative, not tough enough like the others. I guess we knew about poverty, lack of education, intergenerational trauma, abuse, addiction. His family had all loved my uncle and had tried to help him with money, encouragement, support, but they wouldn't or couldn't take responsibility for the implications of what they were blind to. Nobody could save him because they couldn't see his pain. Nobody would save him because they wouldn't open their eyes. Several years later, my father died when I was 40 and my brother was 35. Of course, I tried to save him, but the blindness metaphor is powerful. And I made everybody mad in my endless pointing to what nobody could or would see. My aunts, uncles, cousins, they're almost all lost now. Lost to me, for sure. Why do we have to have a salvation story? When I say that the crucifixion story is soaked in blood, I'm not being squeamish. The PSTA story about Jesus at Easter has tried to cover up the wild, unruly, ineffable tragedy of these events within an illusion of control. But the price it asks us to pay is the denial of reality. Did God make us the way we are, then get disgusted with us and condemn us to an estrangement from which we could only free ourselves when God sacrificed his own innocent child, which even after the fact we have to jump through hoops to demonstrate our acceptance of in order to not burn in hell for all eternity? No, of course not. That's all made up. But are we the descendants of ancestors who coped with reality by committing blood sacrifices of animals and children for generations and generations in order to cower before, placate, and ultimately try to exert control over a God whom they perceived as both our creator and our destroyer? Yes, we are. That's a true story. But there's another story inside Easter, and we get to decide not merely whether it's a true story, but what it could mean for us 2,000 years later, the resurrection story. It contains the seeds of our best salvation stories. Did Jesus die, then lay dead for 3 days, then walk out of the grave? Did Jesus die but live on in his followers' rebirth as Christians? We can see in the resurrection story our yearning for a salvation story that doesn't just give us hope, but a fierce, radical, intimate hope. Can the resurrection story even give us hope of life after death? Is it a polite, hygienic, abstract life after death? Is it a literal, physical life after death? Did Jesus' death somehow reveal a transcendent reality to those who experienced it? A brand new category of reality? An existence in which death was not death, but merely a new way of being? Doug's words from his book. We're not the descendants of ancestors who followed a prince who left behind a life in a palace. We're the descendants of ancestors who followed a man born in a barn and executed by agents of an empire. We believe in a reality that is bigger than the impossibility of living after 3 days dead. We believe in salvation through stories. But we need a better salvation story. In his book, Doug says that even the PSTA can offer a good metaphor. While God's grace is unearned, love is costly. And we should have gratitude for love extended to us and live lives of self-sacrifice. That the trouble is that we have made it the only way we tell the story. There's even value in that story. But our tradition offers several alternatives for the taking. And some of them are up here on the slide. And what I would like to ask is that rather than me talk about them, that we talk to each other about our experience of them. So I have developed all my life habits of, as it turns out, praying for salvation, though I wouldn't have called it that at any point in my life until maybe the last few years. For example, the one on the slide that speaks to me the most at this point in my life would probably be I was weak, but now I'm strong. So throughout my days, as I encounter various challenges and difficulties, I'll often stop and I'll close my eyes and I'll imagine myself in front of a bowl that's filled with blessings. And I won't ask, I won't beg, I won't beseech. I'll just close my eyes and I'll take from the blessing bowl and I will know that I'm doing so. And slowly, I've been coming lately to the next step, I think, which is I take it and sometimes I hold someone, sometimes some of you, in mind, and I also give the blessing to that person and hold that person in my mind. We need better salvation stories. And like all stories, they're made up. And we make them up from our own experience and from our own need in the intersection of need and experience. I was lost, but now I'm found. I was dead, but now I am alive. I was kidnapped, but now I've been ransomed. I was weak, but now I'm strong. I forgot, but now I remember. I was blind, but now I see. So I ask you, have any of you had an experience of these better salvation stories that you'd like to offer to us today? So as you think about it, and we will use some of the What Are You Thinking period to do that, I'll get us started by walking through some of them. I was lost, but now I'm found. We're afraid that our very selves are toxic. We know things are not right, but we can't figure out what to do, and we're trapped, serving vice, unable to access virtue. And when we reconnect with the indwelling Spirit of God, when God comes to find us for no other reason than insatiable love, we realize how safe we are, how safe we always were. I was lost, but now I'm found. I was dead, but now I'm alive. Sin's blindness kills our senses, so we can't see God move or sense the divine presence. But when we shake off our fear of death, which we learned from Jesus' example, sin is conquered along with it. It's the fear of death which causes sin. I've always thought of the denial of reality as the beginning of all sin. And in a way, it's true, because the fear of death is the ultimate fear and the ultimate denial of reality. I was dead, but now I'm alive. I was kidnapped, but now I've been ransomed. The experience of Jesus' teachings frees us from the compulsions and fears that dominate us. If we ask to be helped, we will be. And so there is reason to have hope. I was kidnapped, but now I've been ransomed. I was weak, but now I'm strong. We stop succumbing to our false selves when we seek to serve Jesus, because we're not wanting to be different. We are borrowing Jesus' strength by totally turning from our former lives and trying to live brand new ones. I was weak, but now I'm strong. I forgot, but now I remember. We've been lured away by falsehood, by illusions, by false beliefs, and we've forgotten our most precious truth, that we are spiritual beings first, and we're set free by this truth. I forgot, but now I remember. I was blind, but now I see. When we see Jesus' example, extending forgiveness and goodness to the lowest among us, our eyes are opened, and we begin to see through the same lens Jesus did. We see potency, strength, the staying power of love, grace, and mercy in ways that we hadn't been able to before. By following that salvation story, we can be saved from that excessive focus on me, mine, and mine. The salvation story, on the one hand, convoluted, weird, kind of icky. On the other hand, so close to all of us, so intuitive. I'm sure most of us right now can think of something you'd like to be saved from or for, with. So what I'd like to invite us to do is to use the What Are You Thinking period today to talk about these salvation stories that we need to reflect on and to build up, because we need to pass something better onto our children besides the PSTA. Thank you.
Little, little jargon for you. You just heard the 7 theories of the atonement. You probably didn't know that. Those of you who are online, we're going to dismiss you now. And we're going to do, you heard Heather talking about a version of What Are You Thinking here in the room. And we would like to invite you to do the same. But for you to do it on Zoom. We have found over time that the people who will actually show up for that have a great experience and have gotten to know each other over time, even though they live disparate parts of the whole nation, some overseas, and they still tune in. We get to know each other. So you can get there to that Zoom. There in the YouTube notes, you'll see the link. You'll also see it on the front page of our website. And then when you get there, it may ask you for a password. If you see that, the password is 1417. 1417. All right, let's dismiss the folks who are online and then do What Are You Thinking? If you would, please put your hand on your heart and let's remember as we go that we are, every one of us, carriers of the indwelling divine. The inner light is in us. The fruit of the Spirit is in us. Love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness are in us. And so, if you would extend your other hand to our city, let's look for an opportunity this week to share what's already in us with the people that we live with, the people we work with, the people we go to school with, looking for opportunities to repair and heal our worlds. Amen. God bless you all. You are dismissed. The rest of us are not dismissed. All right, I'm going to give you about 45 seconds. I'm going to leave these up on the wall. You heard the description of them.